some substitutions I think would be good. Um, and I think that's about it. But I'll definitely think of other things if I need to. Um, so first, I'll start on the first deck. I'll just go in order here. The Adventurous Summoning Rite of Aramesir. So what I think about this deck, I mean, it seems kind of... Oh yeah, and also the strengths and weaknesses of them. So some of the strengths that I can see from this deck is it seems to be pretty consistent. I think you should be able to like get to the pieces pretty easily because like you have like quite a few you have a few ways of searching for the Water Enchantress, and you also have and you base okay, so it's basically 6 ways to get to the Rite of Aramesir. I think technically, yeah, no, technically 9 ways to get to your combo. Like really, like if you have a Witch of the Black Forest, like that's probably not the most ideal way to get to it, but like that is definitely a way you can get to Water Enchantress. Other ways is like you could simply just draw the Rite of Aramesir and that's fine. That gets you to a faithful adventure, and then that can get you to your other adventure stuff. And then Water Enchantress can get you to the Rite of Aramesir, which can get you to faithful adventure. Um, so yeah, it's or like just a faithful adventure can get you to Water Enchantress, can get you to the Rite of Aramesir. So like any of those ways really like so you have a lot of ways of being able to like start out with like a token. You'll probably be able to like start out with a token pretty early, and then you'll be able to like easily search for your other guys since a faithful adventurer can search for your other guys. And since you can just discard an equip spell if you have one, like it can be pretty easy to not really lose advantage with faithful adventure. So yeah, there's that. Consistency is probably its main draw. I would say the main weakness of this deck is if your opponent finds a way to remove the token, then you're kind of screwed. I mean, you always have like another Rite of Aramesir, but once both of your Rites of Aramesirs are gone, I don't think you really have much of a way to like special summon tokens anymore. And once your adventure tokens are pretty gone, like this deck really struggles. Like I learned from experience that this engine, that the adventure engine really struggles without the adventurer token. So that is one definite weakness. And there's actually a really good card that destroys tokens. I'm not sure how much it'll be used, but it's called Token Collector. I have it here. Here. Here it is. I'll show you the Token Collector. Here it is. This card is really good against the Adventure Engine and maybe other like token summoning engines like maybe Nibiru. It stops Nibiru. It just stops token engines in their tracks because not only does it destroy all tokens when it's special summon, which you can do simply when a token is special summon while it's in the hand or the graveyard, but also neither player can special summon tokens. So yeah, that can be really bad for the deck. Another card that can be really bad for the deck, and like I think a lot of these decks are like summon limit because I think they love to special summon a whole bunch. Maybe less so for the adventurer. Like you may be able to like get around summon limit with the adventure engine, but like still kind of bad. And then of course, if they negate the summon of the token, that can also be pretty bad. And then also if they Nibiru you, getting rid, that can be another way to get rid of token. Also a few other ways to get rid of tokens are using it in the kaiju just to like tribute off the token and then just summon the kaiju. Since they're so allowed to do that. And then the quit spells are kinda nice, but they really only protect the tokens from destruction by battle, like so yeah, which isn't always that great. Yeah. So yeah, there's some of those. So yeah, I would say that is definitely a big weakness of the deck. The fact that it is pretty dependent on its token. Another strength of the deck, I would say, is that like this one card, I mean, this can also be searched too via the Faithful Adventure, which is pretty cool. But this one card is pretty good because if you have an adventure token, I mean, the adventure token is already 2000 attack, but if you simply have noble arms with a few of the adventurer stuff on your field, which is like fairly easy to bring out since like most of them can spell summon themselves when there's an adventure token. So you should have like a pretty beefy adventure token and then be able to like wipe most of the opponent's board with this effect. So yeah, that's pretty great. And then also you get to equip an equip spell from your hand or graveyard to a monster you control, which is a bonus. So yeah. So I would say that's also another strength of this deck. Okay, so I'm gonna say some card substitutions you can make are I don't know if you really need the planet pathfinders. I mean, they're not bad though. Like, they're definitely not bad. I'm just like, you should probably play terraforming instead. But like, I mean, I guess you don't really need a normal summon. So like, it is a pretty budget replacement for the terraforming. So I may just like, so maybe you could just keep it unless you already have terraforming for some other reason. You can always use terraforming instead of the planet pathfinders. But yeah, I think this is fine right here. Some other replacements is maybe you could add in a few of the hand traps like Ash Blossom, Maxi, Effect Baylor, and maybe remove some of the other monsters. Maybe like do a dark hole instead. Like maybe like have a dark hole as well, because like dark hole can destroy your monsters as well, and you really want like other ways to get rid of the Black Forest off the field. You can't always rely on an opponent having a monster. So maybe like dark hole, because it's also pretty good like Raigeki, but it can destroy your own monsters as well. Which is really only good for Witch of the Black Forest, but hey, like even without Witch of the Black Forest, Dark Hole can still be good if you don't have a field. Some other cards, I mean, Upstart Goblin could be good. Or Dangers can also be good. It can help you get monsters. I mean, I don't know how much you really need those monsters on the field, but they can help you draw cards. And they can help like make some disruptions, like the bird danger guy can destroy a set card on the field, and like Nessie can like search for another danger to help keep your combos going if it's not able to draw you a card to help keep your danger engine going. So either way, so Nessie's probably one of the best because either way it can help keep your danger engine going. There's that. Maybe a few other ways of like searching for quick spells, but I don't know like if you really need it, because I think Faithful Adventure is already good enough. But like maybe like you could like play the Armory if you really want like another way to search for quick spells. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. No, it's called Armory something. I'm not sure if you really need it, but it's definitely another way. Yeah, Hidden Armory is another way to search for your equip spells. I'm not sure how much you really need it. And then the whole you can't normal summon a set shouldn't matter, since like this deck isn't really caring about normal summoning a setting anyway. Yeah. So yeah, that's another thing. I mean, but I don't know if you really need that. But yeah, maybe like you could like run a little bit of the Solemn Pact as well, replace a few cards with the Solemn Package. Um, yeah, and you might want to like to better help protect the tokens too. Maybe just a few more control style cards. Um, yeah, since these are a lot of different like attributes and types, you might also want to be careful of like also other stun cards like Goes and Match Rivalry of Warlords. And there can only be one. I think there can only be one would be a bad card against this deck. I know Rivalry of Warlords and Goes and Match would be because because this deck has a bunch of different attributes and a bunch of different types. And then Vanity's Emptiness would be a pretty bad card against this deck as well. And then there can only be one. Can only control one monster of each type. They might actually do okay against there can only be one. So I guess that is another strength. Like, since a lot of decks don't really do that okay against there can only be one, this one might do okay against it. Because even the Adventurer tokens on Fairy Earth, this is Warrior, Fire, yeah, Warrior, this is, yeah, Fairy, Warrior, Wing Beast. I have a bunch of different types, which actually helps against There Can Only Be One. And There Can Only Be One is very popular too, so like, that's another strength. This deck does pretty well against that card. Okay, so I'm gonna go over how I feel about this deck now. I mean, it's cool. I like the adventure package, and it's pretty cool that they made a adventure a pure adventure deck. But I just can't get over the fact that if the tokens removed, this deck pretty much like crumbles. Like, I mean, that seems really that seems really harsh to me. But like maybe it won't be as bad as I think. But like I'll definitely test it a little bit, and I'll do a final review. But so far, I think the deck does seem pretty weak because if they remove the token somehow, not that they always will, but if they do simply remove the token, and if an opponent is smart, they might realize that like if they can just remove your token, your deck can pretty much crumble. But like, I mean, if you already have your guys out, it might not be so bad. This can only negate stuff while you control an adventure token. This can also help protect your adventure tokens too, though. And you do have two chances, but like it does feel kind of bad that this is the only way to special summon adventurer tokens. So like once you use these two up, if like your opponent then still removes the adventure tokens, this deck might just crumble. Because I know I was having a really bad time when I was playing like one of my own decks that had the adventure engine. I forgot Rite of Aramesir. I couldn't even really use the engine because it relies so much on the tokens. So like having a pure version of it like makes it even worse. But like I don't know. I may be underestimating it. Well, we'll have to see. But I think like so yeah, that's my first impressions. I'm not so sure about it. I feel like it's a little bit on the weak side. I mean, it has like that built-in negate that can be searched for again and again. The Wandering Griffin Rider, once you negate something and shove it back into the deck, you can just get it back out of the deck with Faithful Adventurer when you can activate that again. That seems really good. And also to help search for your quick spells as well. It's pretty much a better hidden armory, which is why I don't think you really need to run that card. Okay, but anyway, I think that's good enough for that deck. And then the Flowandereeze deck, how I feel about this deck. I think this deck is pretty good too. Like, I mean, it's pretty reliant on like normal summoning a bunch, which like makes me sometimes think like if the opponent has like a simple Ash Blossom, Effect Veiler, Infinite Impermanence negate, then it may crumble if you don't have like your other spells and traps that can like help make up for that. But I guess you do have the field spell. You really that can basically help you normal summon even on your opponent's turn too. But that kind of relies on your opponent normal summoning a monster, which I think most deckers are probably gonna end up doing. So like that shouldn't be too bad. So I would say like you definitely want to like put in some of the card substitutions. I would say you definitely want to put in an extra Flowandereeze map and a terraforming, like, because the deck really wants to like get out its field spell as soon as possible. And you can't really use Planet Pathfinder in this case because you're so reliant on the normal summon. You don't want to have it be taken up by Planet Pathfinder. So even though terraforming is a little bit more expensive, it's just so much better than Planet Pathfinder in this deck. It's a UR, but at least another good thing about the Flowandereeze and the Adventurer decks are like if you want to like build like kind of like a version yourself, you can probably just like have most of the cards just be the cards from the Wandering Traveler. So if you already open a bunch of the new selection pack, you should probably have most of the cards already. And then other staples like Lightning Storm, Monster Reborn, Hoppy's Feather Duster, Raigeki. They're just good to have anyway. You could just fill out the rest of the deck with like meta staples, like maybe have like 3 infinite impermanence instead of just 2 here, and maybe even Ash Blossom as well, or Max C in these decks. But like you probably don't have to. You can probably just like keep it more budget using only the Wandering Traveler cards, and then maybe a few like more budget staples, like a few more budget staples I wasn't even thinking of, like Torrential Tribute, Compulsory Evacuation Device isn't bad, and those are both rares. And then there's probably a bunch of like other rare traps that you could use. But yeah, if you don't really care about budget, there's definitely a bunch of like good higher rarity cards that you could put in this deck as well, like replace a few cards for. Maybe you could like replace this now with like other like with like more control based cards. Like Vanity's Emptiness would probably be a very good card for this deck. And here's another thing I was thinking of. You can normal summon 1 Wing Beast. Oh, that's only for a Wing Beast. DD Crow could actually be a really good card for this deck as well, since it like is both a hand trap and it's also a Wing Beast itself. So you can base so if you need to, you can always just normal summon DD Crow off of one of these guys' effects that give you an extra normal summon. Oh, I see. So I didn't even realize this deck is made up of level 1 and level 10 monsters. I thought they had other monsters that like were like level 4 or these or stuff, but I guess it's only level 1s and 10s. That's something I didn't notice. Yeah, I'll show you some cards you can like maybe put in. So I mean, you can obviously like do stuff like the hand traps. The Nibiru isn't bad for any of these decks. Maybe you could even run Token Collector in this deck since you don't care about tokens as much. But it really depends on how many players are really running the Adventurer. Which I think there might be quite a few people running Adventurer. Because I think like people, like some people really like gravitating towards the loner deck. So there might be a pretty good chance that you be able to make use of Token Collector, but it's pretty reliant on your opponent playing a token deck. So I don't know, it's up to you if you want to run or not, but it pretty much kills the Adventurer deck because again, they're so reliant on the Adventurer token. And the equip spells only help protect them from being destroyed by battle. So they can still be destroyed by card effect. Anyway, the bear statues could also be really good in this deck, since you don't care about special summoning yourself. Also the turtles too. Those turtle cards, which I forget what they're called. All they call the turtles, I don't know. I don't think they're called the turtles, but if you know what I'm talking about, like the little turtle looking cards like might be really good. I was wondering about the Vanning cards, but since like since your stuff more like has you like able to gnome summon extra wing beasts specifically, I'm not sure. And then the Monarch Stormforth, I'm not sure if you really need that since you already have a bunch of like ways to get extra gnome summons. Actually the Monarch Stormforth can basically be extra copies of that like one, but I'm pretty sure it's a continuous spell. So like you may not even need it. Like it can basically just be extra copies of, hold on, extra copies of the Flowandereeze and the unexplored winds. But it might be easy enough to get into this card that you might not need extra copies of it. But also like Waterfall, Ice Dragon's Prison can be a really good card for these decks. But maybe like especially for this deck, since like you could always use the monster that you steal for tribute summons. If you really want to. And it could be a really nice and I guess like Monarch Stormforth, one thing it has above the above that unexplored winds is that you can like tribute summon, I believe. Wait, no, I guess you can only activate during your turn unless you have like a way to like tribute summon during your opponent's turn. Which I guess you don't really. I mean, you might have a way, so maybe you could like, if you like, because some of them allow you to like tribute to like gnome summon stuff during your turn. So if you're able to like pull out that column, you might be able to tribute summon during your opponent's turn. Then you can activate this one, and then tribute off one of your opponent's monsters to act as disruption during their turn. That could be something. And of course the standard draw cards, the Upstart Goblin, maybe even the Danger Engine. But you do want to be a little bit wary because you don't really want to be controlling special summon monsters all the time. You want to like probably like tribute them off. They can be used as tribute fodder though. Some of them is very bad against this deck though. I would say some of the strengths of the Flowandereeze deck would be that they can get around a lot of the special summon lock cards like Vanity's Emptiness and and because they just don't really care. Like, oh yeah, and Neko Valley was something that maybe you could run in a few of these decks. Neko Valley with the terraforming. Um, I don't really know like how much like here, but it depends on how much they really utilize the graveyard. Maybe not Adventurer, because like I feel like they want to like get the quick spells out of the graveyard. But Flowandereeze might be able to use Neko Valley as well. I mean, this one has like a graveyard effect. Wait, no, that's not a graveyard effect. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, maybe actually Flowandereeze might be pretty good, pretty able to use Neko Valley. And also another card that Flowandereeze might be able to use is like Macrocosmos and or Dimensional Fissure, because like if the level 1 guys get banished, they can just return themselves to the hand when you normal summon a different, when you normal summon a wing beast monster. So like yeah, any of those cards that like banish cards instead of like them being sent to the graveyard can be really good again for the deck. So Dimensional Fissure and Macrocosmos. Dimensional Fissure just banishes monsters instead of them being sent to the graveyard, and then Macrocosmos banishes all cards instead of them being sent to the graveyard. So yeah. So actually like Neko Valley, Dimensional Fissure, and Macrocosmos can all be used. So I guess that's another strength of this deck. You can also like run a lot of ways of like your opponent, like a lot of like ways like where like graveyards can't really be used, and it doesn't really affect the Flowandereeze deck that much. But of course, since that's not what Konami's doing, I can't really like say that much about it. But if you're planning on making your own version of it, definitely consider that. Consider those 3 cards. I think they're all at one. You only allowed 1 copy of each, but that can be really good. I'm gonna make sure you can only run 1 copy of each. Oh, you can run 3. Yeah, you can actually run 3 Macrocosmos. And believe you can run 3 Dimensional Fissure as well. Yeah, you can run 3 of each. And the Dimensional Fissure is at least pretty budget, since it's only a rare. So yeah. Oh, and if you're running like Macrocosmos or Dimensional Fissure, a pretty good combo is also Torrential Tribute. Like Torrential and Raigeki becomes so much better, because now instead of like just destroying and sending all of the opponent's monsters to the graveyard, now you're banishing all of those monsters. And like maybe you could even run Fury and like maybe like Trap Trick in some of these to better help search for some of your normal traps. Yeah, Trap Trick might be okay. But yeah, I think that's definitely the way you want to go. Especially since you can run 3 of each of the Macrocosmos and the Dimensional Fissure. I think you definitely want to go in that direction. Unfortunately, Trap Trick doesn't help you search for either the Dimensional Fissure or the Macrocosmos. But with you being able to have like play 3 of each, I don't think you should really have a problem. And then Neko Valley also, since Neko Valley, oh, cards in the graveyard cannot. I don't think that matters. It won't be affecting Dimensional Fissure or Macrocosmos, since since they're just gonna be banished right away. They're not even gonna be sent to the graveyard. They're just being banished. So this won't even affect that. Affect those two cards. So like they all work well together. But the only thing about Necker Valley, what I wasn't thinking of, is it really conflicts with the other field spells. So actually, I don't think Necker Valley would be that great in Flowandereeze, because you really want the other field spell. I wasn't even thinking. Because the Magnificent map is so good that you don't really want to be playing any of the field spell. But like, maybe you could still run it in case they get rid of your field spell, and then like maybe at that point you can play Neck Valley until you get another Magnificent map. But I don't know. But Macrocosmos and Dimensional Fisher are definitely both pretty good cards because they don't conflict with your field spell spot, and also like you don't really care much about your graveyard, and like those level 1 guys don't care about being banished anyway. And then I'm not sure if the Flowandereeze guys are water. I'm gonna check that. Wait, no, that's wrong. No, they'll win. They'll win. They'll all win. Also, you could also maybe run a few bear statues, but I think the only problem with the bear statue package, you're gonna like basically need to have a lot of protection with these guys. And like, I don't think you really want to waste your known summons on the bear statues anyway. It can be really good against like special summon heavy decks, but I'm not sure. But like Vanity's Emptiness is definitely good. There can be only one might be really good, since like Flowandereeze might be okay with like only having one monster on the field. And if they are okay with that, which I think they might be, Kaiser Colosseum could be really good for the deck as well. This one. If you only have one monster on the field, then your opponent can't like have like more than one monster on their field. So that can be really good for the deck too. And then of course, Paw of Duality and Carved Demise are really solid options for the deck as well, because they don't care about special summoning. So these are basically not going to affect them. So you probably definitely want to have 3 Paw of Duality and just the 1 copy of Carved Demise that you're allowed if you're playing this deck yourself, like your own version of it. And then Spectral Hurricane might be okay since you don't play like special summon monsters, so like it's really only gonna affect your opponent's board in a big way. But it's not a quick play spell, it's only a known spell. And like Raigeki may just be better than that, since Raigeki just gets rid of everything. Raigeki Lightning Storm might be better. And then because Lightning Storm is really versatile with the back row destruction alternative. But I mean, it does work pretty well with Macrocosmos or Dimensional Fisher like the other one. But yeah, I don't know. I think you I'm kind of wanting to try out but I don't think I'm going to waste my time on like running the Flowandereeze myself, because I already have a deck plan and I don't really want to have to like craft like a bunch of like Macrocosmos to make a really good Flowandereeze deck. It does kind of intrigue me, but I'm just going to stick to the to playing the Flowandereeze deck maybe a few times in the gameplay section. Okay, so anyway, okay, so some of the strengths I would say of this deck are like, of this version, I'm going by this version. I mean, there are a few like special summon hate cards in here already, so that's not too bad. And since like a lot of the other decks probably would like to special summon, that's probably a big deal, the special summon hate. And also they can like they can like normal summon a lot. They can pretty easily go into level 10 guys probably. Yeah. So they're definitely good. They have a lot of, and then they have like ways of being able to like search. This one can search for the England, which can search for one of your level 10s. And then using those two you can then tribute these two guys off to normal summon one of these guys. So like you can get into your level 10s really easily in this deck. I would say it should be fairly simple. So that is definitely a strength. You can go into the high attack monsters pretty easily. And also like they can probably but I guess like if a go like if they're able to like finish off going into level 10s before the goals and match or the rivalry is played. Actually, they're really good against goals and match and rivalry too, so that's another strength. Since they're all winged beasts, like goals and match and rivalry doesn't affect them. So that's another like big strength that they have. But there can only be one can kind of suck, like if they're trying to go into like their combos, but like there can only be one isn't too bad if they're already into a level 10, but it still does kind of suck for them. But yeah, that's another thing, since neither goals and match nor rivalry affects them. You can also like run both goals and match and rivalry in your own version of this deck as well. So I mean that is definitely a strength. And then I would say definitely the weakness is if your opponent negates one of your normal summons, you might be done. But like you can always just remedy that by like having like other cards that allow you to like normal summon during your opponent's turn anyway, or like can give you, yeah, because the Flowandereeze map only really allows you to normal summon during your opponent's turn. But I guess that's still really good. So I don't think that's too big of a weakness. It might not be that big of a weakness. Who knows? I think this one is probably not that bad. I'm gonna give my verdict, and I'm gonna say it doesn't seem that bad. I think, because I think there's always like there are a few ways you can make a comeback, even if your opponent negates that first normal summon. You may have to like just be done for that turn. But then, like, if you have, like, the map or, like, other ways of being able to normal summon during your opponent's turn, you can always just remedy that fact by just continuing your normal summons during your opponent's turn. So, like, it might be okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna say it doesn't seem that bad. It definitely seems better than the Adventurers, because they're not really, like... Because they're a little reliant on that first normal summon, but I think they have ways to come back from that. Unlike the Adventurers that like may not have many ways to come back from like maybe even their first token. Like they may have a way to come back from their first token being destroyed, but like if they use both of their Rite of Aramesirs and like both tokens were destroyed or something, then they might not have many like comebacks after that. But this deck I think can definitely come back. Or like and maybe if they get another turn like after like the additional turn was their previous turn was a bust, like if you get another turn after that, like you could probably pretty easily come back if you have like another Flowandereeze in your hand. So yeah, I definitely think there are like some like comebacks. So yeah, I'm gonna say it doesn't seem that bad. And now I'm gonna move on to Machina deck. Okay, so this one is another special summon heavy deck. Okay, so how I think of the initial version, it looks pretty good. Yeah, I should do my first impressions a little bit later. I think I'm gonna talk about a few of the deck's strengths and weaknesses now. So I would say some of the strengths of the Machina decks are like, of course, they're able to pretty easily like get out, like special summon some of the different monsters, like, and like be able to special summon quite a bit. Like this one, if you're able to special summon off of like a Radiator or an area, this one can get you another Machina from your grave. So like that's already like 2 special summons using just one of your Irradiator or Aerator, so that's pretty good. They seem to be able to flood the field pretty easily. And then some of their monsters that like are special, some of the high level monsters are pretty easily able to be brought out to the field. Machina Fortress is pretty easily able to, and then also like they can help fill the graveyard for Machina. Ruin Force or Citadel can be sent to the graveyard and then like be able to pretty easily like special summon itself like simply after an Earth Machine is just sort of a battle card effect. And then Ruin Force like can just banish cards from the graveyard. So yeah, so I feel like that's a strength, the fact that they're able to like special summon their big guys pretty easily and like be able to flood the field pretty easily. I would say is a pretty big strength, and they're also able to like search out some of their cards pretty easily. Like this is a pretty nice card for being able to search out your other cards. Yeah, so I would say like pretty much that some of their weaknesses are, oh yeah, and they also and unlike the Adventurer deck, it doesn't have to rely on tokens on like a specific token. So like that seems really good. And then some of the weaknesses are, oh, and also another strength of this deck is like just like the Flowandereeze deck. Oh, that's dark. That's earth. Is, well, sort of like the Flowandereeze deck. It can at least like do pretty. It can rivalry does not affect this deck either. Because all machines. And this deck might even do pretty okay against the Gozen match. Also, even though a few of these are dark attributes. Yeah, even though a few of these are the dark attribute, I think like not being able to like bring these out like is like should be okay. Like if you're like locked into one attribute, you could always just like use your Earth engine since you have a lot of Earths. So yeah, I don't think rivalry or Gozen match. Rivalry is just not going to affect them at all, and I don't think Gozen match is even going to be that bad. And then there can only be one though, would probably affect them pretty badly. There can only one can be pretty bad against this deck, I think. That's the thing about there can only be one though. It's really good against a lot of decks. That's why like Adventurer being like pretty much immune to it is a really good thing. But even the Adventurer can be affected a little bit, but I don't think like Adventurer could easily get through it. That's why like the Adventurers not being affected by their Comey 1 is actually a really big strength right there. And anyway, any other weaknesses of the deck? Oh yeah, also they're pretty reliant on the graveyard and like affecting things in the graveyard. So this deck also probably gets shut down really hard by Neca Valley or like Macrocosmos or Gozy Match and like and having Impale Wall, which doesn't allow either player to banish cards, can also affect the Ruin Force a bit. But I think that's a little bit more okay for them. They don't really, I don't think like Ruin Force. I mean, Ruin Force is a pretty good card, but I think they can be, this deck can be okay if they can't like special summon Ruin Force. But yeah, definitely Goes Match and like Dimensional Macrocosmos, Dimensional Fissure, and Neca Valley can be really bad for this deck. Because they want to have their cards in the graveyard. Either to like special summon them later on, like with the Citadel, or like be able to special summon them later on with like the Fortress, which also is able to special summon itself from the graveyard. That's why Neca Valley is really bad, because it doesn't allow the Ruin Force to special summon itself. It doesn't allow the Citadel to special summon itself. And it doesn't allow the Machina Fortress to special summon itself. And those are some of the big hitters. So that can like shut down the deck pretty well. But I guess also another strength is like if you're able to like put out a lot of monsters, like limited removal can be a pretty nice like surprise OTK for your opponent. But like since a lot of machine decks I feel would play limited removal, it's probably not like that big of a surprise, but like it can still be quite a surprise. Like, and then limit removal can also be used as defense as well. Like, but like if you were going to like make a few changes, you might want to even add in a few more limb removal, just because it can be a good game finisher. It can have a lot of versatility. So maybe just one more. I'm not sure if you would really want to play 3 in this deck. Anyway, so that's what I feel about that decks, and I'll go into card suggestions and I'll let you know like my overall thoughts of the deck afterwards. So besides like adding another limb removal, definitely you could probably play just 3 copies each of either Goes a Match or Rivalry of Warlords itself. But if you only want to play one, I would say Rivalry of Warlords might be better. It might be like a little less powerful because more decks might be playing like same type decks like than like same attribute decks. I feel like there's a lot more decks that care a lot more about being able to bring different attributes on the field than different types. So Rivalry of Warlords, while it may be less powerful, like it won't affect your deck at all. So like that's definitely a safer card. But if you are willing to risk it, like Goes a Match might be a little bit better. Just because it can like help lock down a lot more decks, I feel. There can only be one, is definitely not a no-go. Also, Token Collector might be really good for this deck, just like with the Flowandereeze, since you're not caring about special summoning tokens. And of course some of the hand traps like Ash Blossom, Ghost Ogre, Effect Veiler, Nibiru, and like maybe the Solemn Brigade, and maybe even Trap Trick to help search off of some of your normal traps. I'm not sure how big of a deal that is. But also Ice Dragon's Prison and Torrential Tribute, of course. Could also be good cards. Yeah, you definitely don't want to be playing Impale Wall in this deck, though. I think you do. I mean, maybe, like, really the only card that it affects is Ruin Force. And if you just activate after you already got out Ruin Force, it might be okay. So, Impale Wall might be an okay card in this deck. Impale Wall is also a pretty good card in the Adventure deck. The only problem is, like, I'm not sure how many other decks it's really going to affect. I feel like Impale Wall is better as a side card, and since you only play one, a best of one, like, it might not be all that great. But yeah. Uh, any other cards? Oh yeah, machine duplication I was thinking about. And then if you do run machine duplication not all that great because you only like low attack monsters gonna be this guy. So machine duplication may not actually be all that great. Huh. Yeah, I guess those are like some of the suggestions. I'm not sure if I have any other suggestions besides those. But like, so those may not be like a ton of suggestions like each, but like you'd be like really surprised by like how much um like simply adding in some of the staple cards, even some of the more budget staple cards like Torrential Tribute, um compulsory evacuation device, how much like simply just adding budget staples like that into this deck and replacing some of the weaker cards, how much that can like make an improvement to like up your win percentage. Like, not that these like loner decks are that bad in themselves, but I would say like even just adding stuff like that could be really good. Maybe you could add in a few more Paw of Desires, like Paw. And I would say, like, for the Flowandereeze, you could probably just take out the Paw of Desires and, like, put in the Carved Demise and the 3 Paw of Desires instead. But, like, for these other decks, you might want to, like, put in an extra Paw of Desires because I feel like 1 isn't really going to do much. Maybe you could even do an Upstart Goblin if you can't really. But like that's really only better like when you like when you're trying to make smaller decks, like much smaller than like 40 cards. Like so that's probably better for like when you're looking for specific pieces, that Upstart Goblin. So Upstart Goblin might be pretty good for the Adventurer deck because you are technically looking for specific pieces with that deck. But like this deck probably doesn't need Upstart Goblin, but an extra Paw of Desires, I don't think it's really gonna hurt much. But at least has like this other method of drawing cards as well, which is kind of cool. Like Trap Trick might be worth like playing to search out this card, and maybe an extra card, the Machina Overdrive. If you're gonna go that route. But maybe you don't even need it. Like you may still be able to like just play 2 and then maybe play a few extra like normal traps like Torrential Tribute or Compulsory Evacuation Device, so you don't have to like rely on like it only being able to search for a few. So I would say my overall thoughts of this deck here. It seems really good. I think it's got quite a bit of potential. It's like pretty reliant on the graveyard and special summoning. So like Vanity's Emptiness could hurt it quite a bit. Oh, and another thing is all of these decks are pretty reliant on effects as well, but a lot of decks are reliant on effects. Yeah, so like Skill Drain would hurt all 3 of these, but I don't think that really like, I mean, but other decks but like Skill Drain hurts a lot of decks, so that's nothing really that new. Anyway, my thoughts about this deck is like, yeah, it's definitely reliant on their special summons, but a lot of decks have relied on special summons. I think special summons are a whole lot better than normal summons. Because, like, even if your opponent stops one of the special summons, you can still just do another special summon. And, like, if your opponent stops one of the normal summons, then, like, you, like, pretty much had to give up your normal summon in order to, like, try to use an effect. So, like, I think this looks to be the strongest, actually. Because it definitely has pretty good comeback. Because even if the cards are sent to a graveyard, a lot of these can like come back from the graveyard, and like possess storage can get out any of the Machina guys that like have been sent to the graveyard. Um, and like I don't think a lot of people really would play like Macrocosmos or Dimensional Fish or Necker Valley, so I don't think you have to worry too much about that. I think this definitely is a really good deck. It has some pretty good comeback plays, having a lot of graveyard effects, also having this card to like be able to like put your more important like graveyard Machina cards back in the deck to be later be searched off of the Machina redeployment. This one helps protect your cards a bit. Helps protect your lower level guys where you control a high level guy. So I think overall, like this one seems to have like some of the best plays. Like it's not relying on any of on any specific cards, and it seems to have some pretty good comeback plays. And I think special summons are just overall better than just like being able to like normal summon a lot, because a normal summon can be like having the first normal summon stop can be pretty devastating, but like having the first special summon stop, it isn't like really that bad. So yeah, I'm gonna say that this one does seem like the best, but I'll definitely give them a much better look when I'm actually able to play all of these decks. So I'll move on to doing a really quick pack opening. But for the rest of you who don't want to stay for that, I hope you enjoyed my first impressions. Definitely let me know what you thought. Like if I could improve it a little bit, if I could have like maybe talked a little bit more about some specific category or something. But please like, share, and subscribe. And considering the notification for more episodes for the Extra Zero Festival. I'll probably have at least one more episode to just maybe I was thinking I'll just do like one duel for each of the decks, like, and then just like combine that all into one video. But I'm probably gonna do the final review as its separate video. I might, like, depending on how long the duels take. So I'll definitely have to think about it. There's at least 1 or 2 videos left of this, but even if you don't but even if you don't really want to watch the rest of the videos, like, you can always ringing that notification bell is still good for like watching whenever the next let's play is out as well, which is actually tomorrow. It's tomorrow Monday, so that's gonna be the next let's play, so you can definitely be notified of that. But anyway, I'm going to go into a pack opening now for the rest of you. I'll have to make this real short since I'm really running out of time, but should be able to get through it. I have 416. Okay. Ooh, I got a hollow bad reaction Smochi. I actually have already 3 of that, but I think this might be my first hollow of her. This one's new. Bad Reaction Smochi, a pretty good card for Nurse Burn. So this is just a reminder that you can find her in Legacy Pack. Like, not that you can't just like craft her, like, but like if you don't really feel like crafting her, you can always just like try to get lucky from Legacy Packs. Here's the other ones. Cloudy and Smokeball is a pretty good card for Cloudian decks, so it's pretty cool. They can also find that one in here. Okay, I think my favorite card is going to be, I don't know. I don't know. I guess. I really don't know. I don't really care about any of these cards. I guess I'll just give it to Bad Reaction to Smochi. It's pretty cool that I got a hollow copy of her. This might be my first one. And also, like, in case I ever play Nurse, but now have a hollow copy of this. So definitely let me know what your favorite card out of the pack opening was. And then I'll see everyone in the next video. Bye.